Hey, what's going on? It's Scott. Not too long ago, I made a little short video giving advice to rookie police about something regarding physical fitness, I think. And someone commented underneath, police need to know the Constitution and how to de-escalate. That's true. There's a lot of things that go into policing, therefore many different lessons and pieces of advice for police officers, particularly rookie police. If you want to learn more about constitutional policing, then click the link that just appeared and go to that video. You'll get a lot out of it. However, when it comes to de-escalation, yeah, I've made videos about police communication skills and the necessity of that, but I haven't really made one about de-escalation. So let's dive right into that. Kind of an overall picture of de-escalation based on what worked best for me, what I've been taught, and then what I've researched about and continued to learn about. Therefore, now when I go speak about mental health and de-escalation, I increase the chances of other people hopefully de-escalating a situation. The first thing is this, though. You have to understand this. No matter how much de-escalating techniques you put into place, you ultimately don't control the decisions of others and therefore their actions. What I'm saying is some people think that if officers put in de-escalation, that just every time it's going to work. Nothing's for certain, but it doesn't discount the fact that you have to implement as much as you can and learn as much as you can and implement it as best as possible. Having said that, let's start with the first piece of advice, that being safety. You can never, ever, 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 ever jeopardize your safety all in an effort to de-escalate. If anything, when you're less safe, you're not going to be in a state of mind or in a position to de-escalate a situation. And also, I've seen officers put themselves in pretty bad situations tactically, all in an effort to build rapport with someone. Not good. So also when it comes to safety is you need to put in the training time ahead of time before you go to that inevitable call of someone battling a mental illness or someone battling a personal crisis and they're at their worst right now, to which you must have understanding about that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Attend all the training you possibly can, including defensive tactics training. What? Why do you say that, Scott? Defensive tactics are important because if someone does become combative, you'll know how to control someone effectively and you won't be in panic mode. I've seen officers get worked up because they didn't know how to control someone. And I know what some of you are thinking. This ain't about fighting and controlling someone. You're right. It's not. The more someone knows on how to defend themselves or others, the more confident they will be. Therefore, they also will be less likely to use force. I hope you understand what I'm talking about. I was more confident on the job because I would stand a better chance of protecting myself had I not trained anything and felt anxious going into it. Therefore, the anxiousness would show versus the confidence that was gained through training defensive tactics. All right, the next thing when it comes to safety is you need some backup. Seriously, in a lot of incidents where you need to de-escalate a situation, a person just needs your undivided attention for you to say, listen to them, particularly if they're going through a crisis. So you can't give them your undivided attention if you're having to listen to the radio, if you're looking around the room for other things that could be used as weapons, if you're watching a crowd of other people. Yes, sometimes you have to do that on your own while waiting for backup. Hopefully you don't go to a crowd by yourself though. However, it's good for a backup officer to do all that kind of stuff so that you can give someone your undivided attention. Even if they're battling a mental illness, you can give them your undivided attention. The next thing when it comes to safety is time. If you have time on your side, which most of the times officers do, take your time rather than be in a rush and escalate something. I remember an unfortunate incident I was a part of where I was making just routine patrols around a car dealership at night, and they gave out a be on the lookout for a bolo of a man who had a gun and was suicidal. And they gave out his car and a license plate, and I'm talking less than a minute from the time that they gave out that bolo, I saw his car at a car dealership, and I thought, oh my gosh, where is he? And there were some woods right near the car, so I thought maybe he was in the woods, but a supervisor arrived, and the supervisor and I started walking the outside of the building. Sure enough, we see the guy through these windows of a garage door, and he sees us, and he ducks down. Now, we got the information he had a gun and was suicidal. We thought, oh no, right as he ducked down, but then he pops back up, slams his fists on the glass, and then gives us a finger that I'm not going to present to you on YouTube. So he was clearly very mad, and we didn't know if he had that gun or not. He starts making his way to the door and comes out screaming at us with everything he's got. And of course, we're yelling, show us your hands. And he won't obey any commands. Long story short, we kept saying, show us your hands over and over. But then I was like, this isn't working. So I got out my police canine thinking that would de-escalate. He didn't even care the dog was there. So I immediately just pulled him in, and other officers rushed to handcuff him. So we didn't break any policy. We didn't break any law. We let his emotions determine our emotions. But it was a learning experience, but we still walked away knowing he was safe and we were safe. So avoid at all costs their emotion determining your emotion. Get your mind right before you show up. The next thing is, it's not about you. I understand police officers are very solution oriented, but it is not about the solution you're presenting. Nope, it's not about you, particularly particularly when someone's going in a crisis. You need to understand them first rather than have them understand you. It's not about you. It's about the person. And the more skilled you are in showing empathy, the more you can enact this concept of seeking to understand first, not having them understand you. Empathy is crucial. The ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. Absolutely huge when it comes to connecting. Haven't made the point that it's important? Let's move on. When you are empathetic and safe and calm and professional and poised, the ability to listen becomes that much more possible for you to do. And particularly when someone's in crisis, listening is a game changer. And as I recently taught at a corporate company to some security officers, hearing is simply taking in sound. Listening is a process all about gathering information, to which you can gather information based on what they're talking about because you're listening. If you want a good book that explains the 7 steps of active listening, Mental Health and De-Escalation by my friends Nick Rosario and Ernie Stevens, can't recommend it enough. And it's not that long of a book, packed with good information. But when it comes to active listening, one of the things that I got the most out of, particularly when I worked in the schools, was I would just acknowledge how someone was feeling. So like, you seem sad. Do you want to talk about it? So you're acknowledging the emotion they're going through. Now, here's the deal. If you are afraid that you'll say the wrong emotion, oh, don't worry. Someone's going to let you know how they're feeling. And then you say, okay, let's talk about that. Or how can I help? And then listen. And another thing is just pause and wait for an answer. People actually don't like silence, but you pause after asking a question or acknowledging how someone is feeling, just pause. And then eventually they should start to talk. Another thing when it comes to de-escalation, remaining calm, but not telling anyone to calm down. Telling someone to calm down is like asking your dentist to do your taxes. It's pointless. Don't tell someone to calm down. If you're in a relationship with someone, have you ever told them to calm down? See how it works. It doesn't work very well. Don't tell someone to calm down. But back to you being calm, when you use a softer voice rather than a commanding, authoritative, ordering voice, it helps. Now, there are times when you will have to give orders because time is not on your side and someone is at risk of getting hurt. I get that. Like I said, never jeopardize safety. But if time's on your side, safety permits, be calm, be poised, be professional, and also be very brief in your communication. How can I help you today? You don't need to say, I'm Officer Medlin with this and that police department. We're here because we got a call that someone was in distress and we want to know what services we can bring to you to help. So how can we help you? On and on and on and on. I used to work with some officers who didn't know when to stop talking. Be brief and have the ability to connect with them. Next, let's go into things you should avoid saying. And these are some things I had to learn the hard way. Really avoid saying the phrase, I understand. Because even if you've been through something that someone else has been through, or even if you've battled a mental illness that someone else is battling, like post-traumatic stress disorder or depression, if you say, I understand, that can set them off because you don't understand their particular situation. You might be able to relate, but it's not about that yet. It's about them, not about you. So when you say, I understand, that can ignite some rage. Now, sometimes I did find myself saying, I understand, but I would immediately say, but I can't relate. And sometimes that worked, sometimes it didn't. If someone yelled at me, you don't understand, then I would just simply say, you're right, I don't. Please talk to me about how I can help. The next thing you want to avoid doing or saying is 1, making promises you can't keep, or making promises in general. Just don't make promises. 2, you really want to avoid saying, it's going to be okay. It's okay. You don't know that. You can't say that. I recently taught mental health and de-escalation at a corporate company to some security officers, and during the practicals, one of them told me, as I was acting like a guy who had lost everything, acting that out, he told me, it's going to be okay. I told him, you can't say that to people because you don't know. Same thing was if someone's suicidal, you say, sleep it off, it'll all be better in the morning. You can't say that kind of stuff. I know you intend well, but there's certain things you just can't say. So once again, your safety first. Don't let their emotions set your emotions. Seek to understand them, not them to understand you. You have to be able to empathize with people. Listen. Active listening is paramount. Acknowledge how they're feeling and encourage them to talk about it. There's nothing wrong with a pause and silence. Have a calm voice. Be short and brief in your communication and avoid ordering around if time and safety are on your side. And do not say, I understand, calm down, and it's going to be okay. Avoid saying those things. Are there many other things that come into play when de-escalation? Yes. There's hours upon hours of training on this stuff. I'm just hitting some of the highlights that were my favorite to implement. And when I worked as a police canine, sometimes bringing out my dog was a de-escalation tool because people would argue with 8 cops standing around them, but then I bring out the dog and they'd be like, okay, done. That was de-escalation. There's a lot to it. And I encourage you, particularly if you work in law enforcement, keep training this stuff. You know, a lot of skills in law enforcement that you don't train become very perishable over time. Take care of yourself and may God bless.